Chapter number 6 of The Motor Boys in Mexico, or The Secret of the Buried City. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information, or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Ned Kruger. The Motor Boys in Mexico, or The Secret of the Buried City, by Clarence Young. Into the Wilderness. Jerry had a curious dream. He thought he was back in Cresville and was playing a game of ball. He had reached second base safely and was standing there when the player on the other side grabbed him by his belt and began to pull him away. "Here, stop that! It's not in the game!" exclaimed Jerry, struggling to get away. So real was the effort that he awakened. He looked up, and there, standing over him in the darkness, was a dim form. "Silence!" hissed a voice. "One move and I'll kill you. Remain quiet and you will not be harmed." Jerry had sense enough to obey. He was wide awake now and knew that he was at the mercy of a Mexican robber. The man was struggling to undo the lad's money belt about his waist, and it was this that had caused the boy's vivid dream. Jerry had been kicking his feet about rather freely, but now he stretched out and submitted to the mauling to which the robber was subjecting him. If only Ned would awake, Jerry thought, for Ned, he knew, had his revolver ready in his hand. With a yank, the thief took off Jerry's belt containing the money. "Lie still or you die," the fellow exclaimed. Then he moved over to where Ned reclined on the bed. Jerry could see more plainly now, for the storm had ceased. The moon had risen and a stray beam came in the side window of the houseboat. The robber stretched out his hand to Ned's waist. He was about to reach under the coat and unbuckle the money belt when Ned suddenly sat upright. In his hand he held his revolver, which he pointed full in the face of the marauder. "Drop that knife!" exclaimed Ned, for the Mexican held a sharp blade in his hand. "Bah!" the fellow exclaimed, but the steel fell with a clang to the floor. "Now lay the money belt on the bed, if you don't want me to shoot," said the boy, pushing the cold steel of the weapon against the Mexican's face. "Pardon, senor. It was all a joke. Don't shoot," the fellow uttered, in a trembling voice, at the same time tossing the belt over to Jerry, who had drawn his own revolver from under the pillow where he had placed it. "Light the candle, Jerry," went on Ned, "while I keep him covered with the gun. We'll see what sort of chap he is." Jerry rose to find matches, but the robber did not wait for this. With a bound he leapt to the window. One jump took him through, and a second later a splash in the river outside told how he had escaped. Ned ran to the casement and fired 2 shots, not with any intention of hitting the man, but to arouse his friends. In an instant there was confused shouting, lights gleamed in several rooms, and Don Alvarzo came hurrying in. "What's the matter? What is this all about? Is anyone killed?" he cried. "Nothing much has happened," said Ned, as coolly as possible under the circumstances. "A burglar got in the room and got out again." "A burglar? A thief? Impossible! In my houseboat? Where did he go? Did he get anything?" "He got Jerry's money belt," said Ned, "but—" "A money belt! Sancta Maria! Was there much in it?" And Ned thought he saw a gleam come into the Don's eyes. "Oh, he didn't get to keep it," went on Ned. "We both fell asleep, and the fellow robbed Jerry first. I was awakened by feeling Jerry accidentally kick me. I saw the robber take his belt, but when he came for mine, I was ready for him. I made him give Jerry's back." "Made him give it back?" exclaimed Don Alvarzo, and Ned fancied he detected disappointment in his host's face. "You are a brave lad. Where did the fiend go?" "Out of the window," answered Ned. "I fired at him to give him a scare." "I am disgraced that such a thing should happen in my house," exclaimed the Don, and this time it was Jerry who noticed Jones, the American manager, winking one eye as he stood behind his employer. "I am disgraced," went on the Mexican, "but never mind. I shall inform the authorities, and they will hang every robber they catch to please me." "I'm robbed! I'm robbed!" exclaimed Professor Snodgrass, bursting into the room. He was attired in blue pajamas, and his bald head was shining in the candlelight.
"What did they get from you?"
asked the Don, his face once more showing interest. "The rascals took 3 fine specimens of sand fleas from me," exclaimed the naturalist. "The loss is irreparable."
"Diablo!" exclaimed the Don under his breath. 3 sand fleas! Ah, these crazy Americanos!"
"I fancy you'll get more, Professor," said Jones with a laugh. "Well, there seems to be no great damage done. I reckon we can all go back to bed now." The servants, who had been aroused by the commotion, went back to their rooms. In a little while the Don, with many profuse apologies, withdrew, and the Professor and Bob returned to their apartments. Jones was the last to go. "I told you to be on watch," he whispered as he prepared to leave. "I overheard some of the rascals making up a game to relieve you of some of your cash. I wouldn't say the Don was in on it, but the sooner you get out of this place, the better. You can go to sleep now. There's no more danger. Lucky one of you happened to wake up in time, or you'd have been cleaned out. Good night." "Good night," said Ned and Jerry, as they locked their door, which had been opened by false keys. They went to bed and slept soundly until daybreak, in spite of the excitement. Nor were they disturbed again. Don Alvarzo talked of nothing but the attempted robbery the next morning at breakfast. He declared he had sent one of his men post-haste to inform the authorities, who, he said, would dispatch a troop of soldiers to search for the miscreant.
"I am covered with confusion that my guest should be so insulted," he said.
But somehow his voice did not ring true. The boys and the Professor, however, thanked him for his consideration and hospitality. "I think we must be traveling now," announced Jerry.
"Will you not pass another night under my roof?" asked the Don. "I promise you that you will not be awakened by robbers again."
"No, thank you," said Jerry. Afterward he said the Don might carry out his promise too literally, and take means to prevent them from waking if the thieves did enter their rooms. So amid protestations that he was disappointed at the shortness of their stay, and begging them to come and see him again, the Don said farewell. "I think perhaps we ought to pay for the damage to your boat," said Jerry, not wishing to be under any obligation to the Mexican.
"Do not insult me, I beg of you," exclaimed the Don,
and he really seemed so hurt that Jerry did not press it. Then, with the toot of the horn, the auto started off on the trip through Mexico. It was a beautiful day, and the boys were enchanted with the scenery. Behind them lay the broad Rio Grande, while off to the right were the foothills that increased in height and size until they became the mighty mountains. The foliage was deep green from the recent shower, and the sun shone, making the whole country appear a most delightful place. "It looked as if our entrance into Mexico was not going to be very pleasant," said Jerry, "especially during the storm and the smash-up with the houseboat, but today it couldn't be better." "That was a close call you and Ned had," put in Bob. "I wonder why they didn't tackle me." "Because you're so good-natured looking, the robbers knew you never had any money," replied Jerry with a laugh. "I wonder what Chunky would have done if a Mexican brigand had demanded his money belt." "He could have had it without me making a fuss," replied the stout youth. "Money is a good thing, but I think more of myself than half a dozen money belts."
"Ah, my poor fleas!" exclaimed the Professor. "I wonder if the robber killed them."
"I guess they hopped away," suggested Ned.
"No, they would never leave me," went on the naturalist.
"Well, I'm glad I haven't such an intimate acquaintance with them as that," commented Jerry with a laugh.
"Oh, they were tame. They never bit me once,"
the Professor said, with pride in his voice. With Ned at the steering wheel, the auto made good time. The road was a fair one, skirting the edge of a vast plain for several miles. About noon, the path led into a dense forest, where there was barely room for the machine to pass the thick trees and vines that bordered the way on either side. "I hope we don't get caught in this wilderness," said Ned, making a skillful turn to avoid a fallen tree. "Supposing we stop now and get dinner," suggested Jerry. "It's past noon, and I'm hungry." The plan was voted a good one. The portable stove that burned gasoline was set going, coffee was made, and some canned chicken was warmed in a frying pan. With some seasoning and frijoles Don Alvarzo had given them, the boys made an excellent meal. After a rest beneath the trees, the boys started off in their auto again. The road widened when they had gone a few miles, and improved so that traveling was easier. About dusk they came to a small village, in the center of which was a comfortable-looking inn. "How will that do to stop at overnight?" asked Ned. "First rate," answered Jerry. The auto was steered into the yard, and the proprietor of the place came out, bowing and smiling. "Your friends have just preceded you, signors," he said. "Our friends?" asked Jerry in surprise. "Si, signor. Don Nixon and Don Pender. They were here not above an hour ago. I think they must be your friends, because they were in the same sort of engine as yourselves." "Naughty Nixon here!" exclaimed Jerry. End of chapter 6.